Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard crossover dress deck profile for October 2022. This is one of the new decks we got in the latest Cardfight Vanguard booster set, Blazing Dragon Reborn, an all-new Nirvana deck that focuses on crossover dress, using two different units on the field to then become an overdress unit on the field, or the new crossover units that we have from this booster sets, the new deck used by Yu in the Will Dress series. A really strong deck. I definitely feel this deck could get stronger with the upcoming sets we have, following the same trend, I would say, as the original Overdress, just getting better with each set of support we get for the many different crossover dress units. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Ride deck, our new starter is Surprise Egg, still sharing the same card skill when rode upon. If you went second, draw a card. Our grade 1 is the new Heart Pounding Blaze Maiden Reno. When it's rode upon by a Snuggling Blaze Maiden Rayu, you can search your deck for up to one Trickstar, call it to rear, and shuffle your deck. So basically the exact same skill as the original grade 1 Reno, but still much more better setup with our grade 2 Snuggling Blaze Maiden Rayu. When rode upon by a Chakrabarthi Phoenix Dragon Nirvana Jiva, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to one Prayer Dragon from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So the Prayer Dragons are some of the new setup that we use for the crossover dress, having the option of being part of the crossover dress to gain the unit that is in crossover dress additional skills. So being able to search out one of these just helps to set up not only the Trickstar that is on the field, but then the additional search that we'll have with our grade 3, which is the new Chakrabarthi Phoenix Dragon Nirvana Jiva, along with the option of having the one in the Ride deck. I do want to run 3 additional copies of this card in the actual deck as well. Sadly, still missing the one, so I have the one just generic plus 2k grade 3 as an added backup until I get my other copy for the deck. On the Vanguard circle, once per turn, you can discard a card from your hand to choose up to one Trickstar and one Prayer Dragon unit from your drop zone and call them to rear. So this will set up the crossover dress on the field. And on the Vanguard circle, when this unit attacks, +1, choose one of your rear guards in the crossover dress state and stand it. So this will give you 4 attacks in one attack step. So you have the 4 to go off of. That's the pressure that you can rely on with this deck. The original Nirvana had it so you could attack 3 times and then potentially have a unit in overdress state attack again. But you're relying on your grade 3, since we don't have any grade 4 in this deck, to have those multiple attacks that you'll use all together. And then for the other grade 3 that I run in the deck, I run 3 copies of Brilliant Equip Brian Virina. You need 1 Trickstar and 1 Prayer Dragon unit to perform a crossover dress, and you may place it by stacking all of the units on the one circle that you will place this unit on. So you can even have, Trickstar and the Prayer Dragon on 2 separate circles, and then they'll just place them all. The original overdress, you'd place it right on top of the unit for overdress. Crossover dress allows you to set it up in some other different spots on the field. During your turn, if this unit is in the crossover dress state, this unit gets plus 10,000 power, and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets an additional plus 10. So it can hit for 33k on its own. So one of the best ones, I would say, to restand with Nirvana Jiva. And also, when this unit attack hits a Vanguard, if this unit is in the crossover dress state, you can Soul Blast 1, choose one of your columns, and retire all of your opponent's units in that column. Just a good way to clear out your opponent's field as well. So you have retire consistency, a very good target for the restand power. I would potentially run this card at 4. If I were to do so, I'll show you what cards you can take out for a 4th copy of this card. One of them may potentially be the Sturdy Wall Equip Vils Virina, just because this is a recycle card in the deck. You need 1 Trickstar and 1 Prayer Dragon unit to crossover dress into it. When it's placed by crossover dress, and you have a card from your drop zone with crossover dress ability other than Sturdy Wall Equip Vils Virina, and add it to your hand. So it's recycle power for the other ones, since a lot of them could potentially be put into the damage zone, so you can just add them back to your hand with this card. And on the rear guard in the guard circle, if it's in the crossover dress state, it cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects, and it also gets plus 5,000 power and shield plus 10,000. That's why I also like this card. It can avoid decks like Prison, other decks that would retire this card if it were to choose it. Just a good rear guard to stay on the field as an additional defense against your opponent, or just a unit that you know you can rely on later on. And for the other grade 2 units that I run, 3 copies of the Jeweled Sword Equip Garou Virina. With this card, crossover dress, you need 1 Trickstar and 1 Prayer Dragon unit again. On rearguard, if this unit's in crossover dress state, this unit gets plus 10,000 power for the battle that this unit attacked. When your opponent would call cards from their hand to the guard circle, they must call 2 or more at the same time. So it all depends on the situation. You have a pretty good powerhouse that can restand for 33,000 power, or you can go for this one, which if you attack with it, your opponent will either have to take the attack or guard for 2, but then you can restand it again with Nirvana Jiva, attack again, and then they still have to guard with the same amount of cards as they did the other attack, also if they need to block both of them. For the other grade 2 units, I'm also running 4 copies of Sword Equip Dragon Gallad Knight. When this unit becomes an original dress, choose one of your cards, outer dress units, and it gets plus 5,000. And if the outer dress is Jeweled Sword Equip Garou Virina, which is the option for your sword unit, you can have it gain an additional plus 5 as well, making it that much more difficult for your opponent to potentially guard that attack, since when it crossover dress, it gives it an additional plus 10 altogether if it was that specific unit. Moving on now to the grade 1s, I run 3 copies of Flash Equip Dragon Brahmada. Now, the reason I run 3 of this card is because it does take a counterblast, which you're going to use a lot of your counterblasts for Nirvana Jiva's restand power. It gives you a draw 2, but then you have to choose a card from your hand, discard it when it becomes an original dress. So on the rear guard, it does give you some draw power to hopefully potentially draw into some of the other crossover dress units you'll use. If you wanted to run 4 of this card, you could always try dropping down the number of Gallad Knights you run, so you still have an equal number of searchable cards being Prayer Dragons from the top of your deck. But I'm still running 1 additional one, and that is 2 copies of Wall Equipped Dragon Beskill. With this card, when this outer dress unit is retired from rear guard circle during your opponent's turn, you can Soul Blast 2 and call this card to an open rear guard, just as recycle power. That's why I like it. I run 2, so if one does get put into the damage zone, I still have at least that one option to search it with the go-to Maiden Rayu from the top of the deck, or even just by drawing into it also. And then the other grade 1s that I run in the deck are just the Sentinel lineup. So I run 3 copies of Sparkle Rejector Dragon. This is the new Sentinel, but shares the same card skill as the other Sentinel we had. I just find it fitting as being one of the newer ones for the newer deck. And 1 Elementaria Sanctitude, the new Blitz order that helps against the triple drive decks, being able to block and attack, just like not having to discard for the Sentinel, but this one just going up against the triple drive. Otherwise, if you're going up against a deck that doesn't have triple drive, you can just use it as a normal Sentinel. Now for our grade 0s, I run 4 copies of Trickstar, just so you have a unit to use for the overdress on the field. You can call it with Rayu, but still you want to have those numbers to at least be able to potentially get 2 crossover dress on the field. So you'll have the 1 search and then the other one to at least be able to call either one that was put in the damage zone and healed, put into the drop zone, thanks to Nirvana Jiva to call back onto the field also. And for our trigger lineup, I'm running 8 criticals, so 4 of the Burning Flail Dragon. I know this is a pretty pricey critical, but it will be reprinted soon in the next set after set 6. So if you're looking to just use, generic criticals, you can do that as well. And 4 copies of the new Blaze War Monk as the new one, just again fitting like the Sentinel for the deck. For the draw trigger, I run 3 copies of Flare Veil Dragon. If you want to run a 4th copy of this, you can just drop down your critical count for the Blaze War Monk to 3 and then put in another copy of this. I do run for the new Blaze Maiden Rioni. I'm debating if I want to use any of these skill heals. We have the Blitz order for more of a protection against the triple attack decks with the triple drive, but still, if you wanted to just take out one of each of these for the ability heals, you can do that as well. 1 for the additional attack guard and 1 for the extra critical guard, with the last trigger just being the over trigger being Drag Veda, reprinted in the set, so also once again a trigger that's more readily available for people to use in this deck. And then as for the crossover dress, this is all just the setup on the field. If you have your Jiva and then your Trickstar, and let's say you have the 1 additional unit, which is your Prayer Dragon on the field, depending on which Prayer Dragon it may be also on the field, you can have that set up ready to go. And then all you need is your unit for crossover dress in your hand. Then to perform it, you'll just place both of the units on the specified circle, and then placing that other unit just as you would in overdress before with it, and then giving the original dress abilities of any of the prayer dragons that you use for the deck onto that new unit you have on the field. And once again, working with the crossover dress, if you have 1 additional unit on the field to attack with into your opponent, you can have the first attack the second attack, then attacking with Jiva, using her skill to then restand it for a counterblast to get your 4 attacks in total against your opponent. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. I wanted to start off the deck profiles for the new set with one of the ones I will definitely be maining the most. Nirvana has always been a favorite of mine since, the Overdress series began, so I was definitely happy to rebuild the new version of the deck as well. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.